and I wanna read 500 books, and I wanna read 500 more.
We are back with episode 2. It was a fantasy book, first fantasy book of the podcast. It was The Golem and the Jinni by, we did this last week too.
I know, I was really hoping you had it written down.
Don't know her name.
It's okay, I'll look it up.
It was Hendrix or something. It was her debut novel.
Oh, really?
It was.
And I can't believe, and how did you hear about this, Phil?
It was another one that got very good reviews
On Goodreads.
when it came out. So on Goodreads.
Yeah, it's Helene Wecker, Weckerer.
Nice.
Or Helene, I think, actually, because there's an E in the end. So Helene Wecker.
Yeah. Nice.
Authors' names are hard for us. We will get there.
Yes. It's sort of like Zac Efron.
I kept rewatching that as I was trying to edit it, and it just got me every time.
Okay, so I listened to the book.
I did too.
I actually really liked the narrator. I thought he was really good.
I thought so too.
Yeah. It took me about 4 days. I think it was 20-hour audiobooks. So
It was a long book. It took me
long.
a week to get through, and we can talk about why that was. But
yeah, I would give it a 1. I wouldn't bring it up to recommend to a friend, but it wasn't like painful to get through. It was. I mean, I think I'd give it like a 4 on Goodreads. I think I did give it a 4 on Goodreads.
I think I did too, and it definitely took me a long time to get into, but I thought that the writing itself was very good.
That's what I thought as well. I thought the writing was very good, and for somebody who is not a big fantasy fan, very good. Like if they were like, I gotta just like read a fantasy book.
Yes.
I'd be like, this would be a good book for you.
Yes.
But I think fantasy fans usually are in it for the plot at least a little bit, and I think this one's plot probably wasn't great. Wasn't as good as it could be.
Yeah, I mean, I think exactly what you're saying, where fantasy, we want to see a world building, we want to see new creatures introduced, and that really wasn't happening for me, at least. And it just was very slow to start for me until almost the end of the book,
Yeah.
So I also gave it a 1.
Yeah. So
But
I see you
very good writing.
with me on this next one. So you just put same. Out. The hell.
I mean, that really was the.
It was, yeah. So the next thing is recommended book if you like this one, and I think City of Brass by S.A. Chakrabarti, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Who I do think it's better than this one, I would say.
Yeah, the series is better. Yes.
City of Brass was really good, but it's built on Arab sort of folklore. So the jinn, there weren't golems, but there were ifrits and sort of creatures like that. And it was set, I think, in the Middle East. I think it was. It was a fake city. So
yeah, but in the desert, and they had oasis and everything. I completely agree, and I think that also was not as, it made the Golem and the Jinni not as interesting for me because, again, there was no new introduction to characters or no new introduction to races of, I don't know the word I'm trying to say, but different characters other than humans. Yeah. Because I had read this series and I was familiar with it. So I think that would have been a little bit more interesting to me had I not read the City of Brass series, but.
Yeah, I think so as well. I will say that you're right. There wasn't actually a lot of people said it was cool because of that, and I do think that's true. A lot of
because of what?
Of just the Arab
Oh
culture.
yeah.
So from a Western reader, you don't get a lot of exposure to that.
Totally.
That said, I think there were Well, besides like the actual culture, as far as the Arab folklore, there was just the Golem and the Genie, and
The Ifrits.
yeah, but they didn't even explain what an Ifrit was.
No, that's true. Like I only knew because I had
Of the
read The
other,
City of
yeah.
Brass. Yeah.
Um,
True.
so I don't know. I feel like she could have probably done a little bit better with that one.
Is that
Um,
you making that?
yeah, that's me. Sorry. So the book news slash what are you reading? I have no news. So, but I'm reading the Imager's Portfolio, which is this. It's a pretty like interesting series, but it's a fantasy series. It's the third book of the series, and then I'm also reading this really cool book about sort of sports analytics, just sort of
Oh,
how metrics are changing all sports. Very cool, but
not
yeah,
Moneyball,
there
I'm
you go.
assuming.
Not Moneyball, but it does talk about Moneyball a lot. It's basically sort of
Yeah.
like the revolution that Moneyball started.
Oh, cool. That's very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
That's so cool. I just finished the Black Witch series, which I think also did not lend, it did not help me like this book anymore because I loved this series. It's a little girly, but I honestly would recommend this to you, Phil.
Okay.
I texted like Molly Horrell. I texted like a bunch of people that I know that like fantasy and was like, hey, read this series. It's so good. It's
Who
there's
wrote it?
one what?
Who wrote it?
You would ask me that. Let me look. I'm like,
I saw
what?
you also read the King Killer Chronicle, the first
Well,
one.
that was what I was gonna say next. This is by Laurie Forrest.
Okay, interesting. Never
So
heard of
Laurie
it.
Forrest wrote it. Yeah,
Cool.
I don't know if she has any other works. I haven't looked into it, but yeah, so good. Just very interesting, like really good world building. Tons of cool creatures. Like they have witches, wizards, half with I don't want to call them like halflings, but like some sort of hybrid creatures. They have like a whole like sect of like only female warriors.
Oh, nice.
And it's like super based in like not religion, but obviously like religion and prophecy.
Not religion, but like
But
obviously.
totally religion, like not any religion that we know, but
Yeah.
religion and prophecy, and it's really really good.
Yeah.
There's like werewolves, the whole nine. So um, yeah, very good series. And then yeah, I just started the King Killer Chronicles. I'm on the first book now, and then I'll never
So
read the
good.
third probably in my lifetime. So
Facts. I did see a really elaborate, really funny joke. It was a science poster, and it was like the time, like far out timeline of the world, and it was
Mhm.
like 10,000 years, like Greenland ice sheet half melted, like 20,000 years, like the Voyager finally reaches and then it had like 100 things, and like 67 was like George R. R. Martin right wins winter. It was so
So
deep.
subtle.
It was so subtle. It was so funny. And it was like not meant to be a funny post. Like everything was super accurate, and then someone just slipped that like a little Easter egg.
In.
And so funny.
That's hilarious.
But
Dang.
anyway, you should really enjoy that. He's really good. That one takes a little bit, like even the first like two chapters, you're sort of like, all right, let's get on
What's
with
going
it. But
on?
after that, you're in the whole way.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I don't think this will ruin anything. I'm sure many people listening have read this. It's him looking back on his entire chronicle. Like
Yeah,
he's made it into the future at this point and
right.
is retelling the story. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a good setup.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
excited for that.
okay, so let's get into this book.
Yeah.
Basically, I do think the biggest thing was that it was good writing. I think that it was also a cool sort of city and time period, and like really set in the neighborhoods of New York, like during
Hmm.
the sort of Ellis Island immigration thing. And I think I put in the doc that I thought it was really interesting. So it was based one neighborhood in like a Syrian neighborhood, and then the
Right.
other neighborhood was like the Jewish neighborhood. And I think like definitely we still think like New York, Upper East Side, Jewish, like that is a very popular sort of trope.
Right.
But I don't really think of like Middle Eastern, oh, like here's the Middle Eastern neighborhood in New
Like
York
Little
City.
Syria.
Like
Yeah.
Little Syria, yeah. Like I definitely think Chinatown. And I thought it was really interesting, especially in the middle of like this Israel Hamas thing where there's like a lot of enmity. There's not like there's definitely skepticism, and I think he brings that up, but like there's not as much sort of enmity, I think, in the book that I definitely, I mean, just in the cultural climate now, you're
Yeah.
very, um, so I thought that was interesting.
I mean, I just don't think there's any inner crossing. Like you never went into Little Syria if you were in the Upper East Side. Like no one was interacting necessarily,
Yeah.
or there
Well,
was much
except the
less
guy who
limited.
buys the tiles or the ceiling is
No, he was not Jewish. He was also Syrian.
oh, right, but he was Muslim, or he was because they were Syrian Christians, and
He was
then
like another sect. Yeah, not in that same community, but yeah, like because that little boy Michael was living, or not Michael,
yeah,
Matthew, I think his name is,
Matthew, yeah, Michael Lee.
was living in his, like, he was a tenant. His parents were a tenant in his building, and he was still all within Little Syria. I got confused about that at first too, because they describe him as being like other than essentially,
Right, which
but he's
is
still within the community.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I like that New York, like I loved hearing about that. I
it
love
was
reading novels about New York City. Like I could read every book could ever read again it could be about New York and I would not get bored. Like it's just such a
yeah, it is
fascinating,
very cool.
yeah.
I think it was also it was interesting how I do think racism is perceived differently, like past racism at least, is perceived differently now because of this. And I don't want to get too political on this, but I do think there's this like person of color, which really disadvantages, honestly, a lot of historical racism against black people that's really just like against black people, not of POCs. Because even with like Ahmad talking to like the richest girl in New York, like she was like interested in him. Like
Yeah, and
she
I
was
don't
like,
know
this is
how like,
interesting.
but I don't know how like accurate that would be. I cannot imagine that that would have been accurate, to be
Yeah,
honest
but
with
I
you. Like
mean, to
that could
be
have just
fair,
been
there was a
published.
community. There was not an African American community in the middle of New York.
Right. Well,
But
not
I
in
guess
this
there
book.
not. I mean, there was one in Queens for sure. I mean, there was
Yeah.
ones in not in Manhattan though. I don't
Right.
think. Maybe
Yeah, I
in
mean, I
North
don't know that this
Atlantis.
was. Go
I
ahead,
don't know
sorry.
if it was accurate. True,
Yeah.
true. I do
Yeah.
think, at least I hope, and that's something I do value a lot in historical fiction of just like being accurate about the history, I guess.
Right. Well,
Um,
that actually was something that I found issue with, that his entire like trounce with her, or escapade, or whatever you want to call it, that was like so out of the blue. But then you start to get this parallel between the fatwa, this past relationship that he had that led him to be captured as a genie, and then obviously, in prison for thousands of years. But he basically had an affair in her dreams,
yeah.
and then fast forward, he's doing the same thing again. Like he kind of sucks, to be honest. Like I don't
So
know if
I
I like
think
him.
like that's another sort of issue I had. They were so like stereotypically the worst things about like
Men and women.
yeah, I mean it was men and women like but it was stereotypes of men and women. It was like
Yeah,
she was very like oh I have to be a people pleaser. Like she could literally read people's feelings and thoughts and what they wanted and she was like I
true.
have such a hard time not doing that. Like I don't think that would be that hard. I just gotta say, like, I mean, you think that, like, she's like a people pleaser because, like, she had but like she wasn't tied to anyone else. Once her master died, she was like free to
Scot free.
be.
Yeah, but
And
I think that was don't you think that was intentional? Like it was these two like larger than life creatures
no, yeah,
essentially.
I mean, it was definitely men and women. Like that was her intent.
Intent.
I mean, it didn't have to be so stereotypical. Like it could have had a little bit of nuance. Like
Right.
he didn't have to be a womanizer, and she didn't have to be like very quiet and subdued and scared of everything. Like,
Right. There was no subtlety to that innuendo.
yeah, there was not a lot. There was also like this weird like one thing. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, like this, you can't make a theme about this of just sort of like older men with younger women, but
Hmm.
like she made it like 5 or 6 times, and like none of them were like true. Like they were all just like, oh, we are worried about being conceived like that, because it was the
The
rabbi,
rabbi.
her, and then it was him and like a younger girl, and then it was Anna, and like they were just like really constantly worried about being perceived this way, I felt. And
Hmm.
like never was it was just sort of a weird thing that never really came to pass,
To
I guess.
pass.
It is important of perceptions in that time, like you couldn't be alone with a man, or like another, yeah, I guess a
Well,
woman couldn't be alone with a man.
yeah, and I do think again it was playing at very obvious stereotypes of like old men in positions of power trying to control young women with no power.
Yeah.
Because I mean the rabbi at the end he kind of turned out to also suck because he died he was going to try to make the golem like he was going to be try to become her master, you know? So
Wait, no, he didn't.
yeah, he did, Phil. Said the only way that she could become it is if she consented to it willingly. But he was going to try to trap her to become his master or
Um,
her
I
master.
thought that was just for anybody. I didn't realize it was for him.
I mean, even if it was for anybody, why would he be trying to make her a
Because I
slave to
think he
somebody?
was worried about the sort of thing that he learned from his. Maybe that was sort of part of the subplot, that like these stereotypes of golems got passed down from old rabbis to young rabbis to the
Yeah.
next generation, of like
Well, and again,
golems
it's
will
like,
always be out of control no matter what. Like,
right.
so maybe that was, yeah, okay, that's a
And
little
it's
bit.
like the little girl who can't take care of herself. Like the
Yeah.
reason women don't didn't have credit cards. Like that whole like oh women can't be trusted to do this. Maybe I mean I'm just kind of this is where the conversation's taking us. I didn't think this
Yeah.
at the time,
Neither did I.
but
I do think
it
that does make a lot of sense.
yeah same.
Yeah,
So
interesting. I do think
yeah.
one thing that I put in the doc that I just did not, I did not, like, I think her character development was very, like, there was no development of characters throughout. I
Hmm.
don't think any character changed from start to finish in the book.
I mean yeah even at the end when they're reconciling in New York, it's a very like she went back to her bakery job
Yeah.
and he went back to do whatever the heck he wanted in the desert. Like
Yeah. And then
yeah,
she was always just like feeling guilty about Michael Levy's. Like she was always gonna
death,
feel guilty about that. So
right?
she was just like continually racked with guilt. And
Forever.
right, like even the minor characters didn't change. Like Sophia was sort of adventurous, like wanted to do her own thing, didn't want to marry, and she went
Right.
off to France and got to do that. And Anna Bloomberg, like, sort of is painted as like a gossipy, promiscuous girl,
And she
and I
still
mean she has
is.
a girl out of wedlock, or as a baby out of wedlock. Like the only person who just changed because he died, the ice cream man, but he was
Oh
literally
yeah.
possessed, so that didn't really count. Really, just an Ifrit left him. Like that's why he changed.
I'm
So
just still
like,
caught on you saying having a child out of wedlock. Like it's the 1950s.
I mean that it was. I mean it was the 19. He had a child out of wedlock. It was a big deal.
Yeah, at the time, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, So one thing I thought of that it made me laugh, I almost put Twilight down as if you'd like this book, you'd like another book.
Interesting.
Because as a kid reading Twilight, I never thought, I always felt bad for Edward Cullen that he couldn't sleep. But now reading this book about how both of them never slept and they had so much time, like I'm trying to pick up crocheting this year as a like hobby, which
Interesting.
I don't like need another hobby, but I'm like, it would be so nice to not sleep. But
That's
then
so
I was
funny
wondering,
you
like,
said
some people
that.
love to sleep. So I was thinking, I was,
Wait, that's
you
one
would,
of the quotes that I put.
I know. So I saw
'Cause
that,
I
but
like
then,
sleeping a lot.
yeah, wait, okay, read the quote then.
So the quote is from Arbeli, and he's like, "If I didn't sleep," Arbeli mused, "I'd think I'd miss the dreams."
Oh,
And I
yeah.
do like, I mean, one of the only, so I wake up like every 2 hours, and one of the
Mhm.
only things that I like about that is that I have like 4 or 5 dreams a night.
Yeah.
And most of them suck. Like most of them, I don't know why, but like I guess I was really scared of being late to school in high school because that's literally every night. Like I have that one. I'm just
You
late.
should look into that
I'm
further.
just late to school, but it's not even that I'm worried about being late. It's the third time because the third time you got a detention. So like I'm always trying to like get mom to write me like Phil was sick for 15 minutes this morning, and I'm just like that's the dream. Literally every night. It's
I think you have to let this go, Phil.
I know I don't know I don't know what's happening. Different story there, but no, I do think that
So would you like choose to not sleep if you could? Like if you would be completely fine never sleeping, what would you
yeah.
do?
No, I don't think I would. Well, I guess like I guess a sleep thing like I don't sleep often. I mean, I sleep because I'm tired, but often I'm just like mentally like I'm not falling asleep. I'm just like I would I guess need to switch up my activity or something. Like I would need to do something different, I
Yeah.
guess. Like I would need to yeah, so but and you would not Marion hates sleep. She thinks it's like the devil.
It's like a waste of time.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
and which is wild.
Which
Um,
Jaden would say
Jaden
he would
sleeps like 13 hours a night.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely, I mean, I feel that. But so what did you have any quotes?
I didn't have any quotes. Nothing spoke to me.
Yeah, I thought that one of them was good, was sort of like biting a gift horse in the mouth. I guess I just liked sort of the Arab, what she had as the Arab
Wait,
version.
Phil, it's not biting a gift horse in the mouth. It's looking a
Bro,
gift horse.
everyone knew what I
How are you gonna bite a horse in the mouth?
Everyone got that, all right? My thing is actually, this is again off topic. Like, no one's gonna watch this shit. But anyway, I love that the idioms. I think a lot of idioms, no one actually knows what the idiom is.
A hundred
Like, no one.
percent.
So this is actually literary. So, foisted by my own canard. Do you know that idiom?
No.
So it's a Shakespeare quote. Hamlet says it. I've been foisted by my own canard.
But no one now says
No
it.
one. Okay. Strike says it, bro. Strike says it in the J.K. Rowling book. So boom.
Wow. What
Anyway,
to JK?
what I love about that is no one knows what foisted means, and no one knows what a canard is. So nobody knows what that idiom means, which
Yeah, no
means,
one.
and also both of those are like really obscure words, which means that you can literally like, I've been putting different words in there, and no one has noticed. It's awesome.
What does it
I've been,
mean?
I've been hoisted by my own petard. No one said anything.
What does it
So
mean?
hoisted means like exploded, like self blown up, and a canard is like a ancient sort of grenade explosive thing. So it means like sort of like
You're
blowing your
like,
own up, like you sort of screwed yourself.
oh, not like tooting your own horn.
No, no, it's
Okay.
like I've been foisted by my own canard, but you can really put anything in there.
Anything.
No one knows.
The one recently that Jaden said is cough it up to a loss instead of chalk it up to a loss. That's like a fact that no one actually knows what the idioms are. Like,
Yeah.
like play it by ear, play it by year. Like no
Yeah,
one knows.
like Doggy Dog World. That one you can get away with.
Everybody knows it's dog eat dog.
I had a kid that sophomore year of college was flabbergasted.
A dog eat dog.
So anyway, the quote is, "This is preposterous," he said. "If I say yes, I'm buying something I didn't ask for. And if I refuse, I'm like a man who complains that someone stole the eggs from his hen house and replaced them with rubies."
Yeah.
And I think that was like, I thought that was a really good one.
Yeah.
Sort of just like, wow, like, I want to be mad right now, but I literally cannot be.
Cannot be. Well, I think I agree with you. That's a great quote because I remember the part of the book when
He says
when he says that, when he makes the tin for him and it's this beautiful ceiling. Yeah, that was cool.
which is cool.
I think that
so-
was really the only things I had. Oh, one like flaw in the plot I thought was the wizard at the end was trapped obviously in that tiny.
But that didn't make any sense. It's not
Well,
like, he's not a djinn, right?
That, and I'm also, I mean, I can get behind like, okay, magically he shrunk down, whatever. What I can't get behind is she could feel him being mad at her because he was still her master, but he was in the thing. And like, if she could feel him, why did he not tell her to release him?
So
No way.
Yeah. I think that basically he, like, when you're in the bottle, you're stuck in that moment of time. So like you cannot change. So I think that was my bigger issue was sort of the bottle shrinking. I feel like she just sort of made up the rule that anyone can go in a bottle, which I don't really get. Because like the other thing, like no one could do magic but him. So
True.
like the
Yeah,
djinn-
did the spell like backfire? What?
I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
really. I don't know what happened. I actually had to listen to that twice because I wasn't really sure that he died too. It was sort of like a very quick ending where they were like struggling over the. I actually think the epilogue was very helpful in sort of clarifying what happened.
Right.
A little bit. So. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Did you have anything else?
I don't think so. I think main takeaways: cool setting, good writing, plot probably could have been better. I thought, the last thing is that it was way too much world building for a one book. It was like,
But there was
half
no
of it
world
was
building.
setting. No, I mean, just sort of setting the stage. Like, I feel like there were so many different. I mean, that's why I think it was so hard for you to get into, because she just sort of kept jumping characters and plots and scenes, and it was just like, you're writing one book. Like, you're not like building this ensemble of characters. Like, you don't need to do this for one.
Yeah.
I do think there was a sequel. I have no idea. Like, this book didn't end on a cliffhanger at all. Very resolved.
Yeah, weird.
So I have no idea what the sequel is about, but
Yeah. I probably won't find out.
yeah, same. So I guess that gives you a pretty good, accurate estimation of how we.
I don't want to shit on it. It was good, but
It was good. Just I don't think it was our cup of tea.
next week it's the Rosie Project. Well, our next
Yeah.
podcast, which will be in 2 weeks.
I'm
but-
excited for that's Jojo Mays, or no? Who
Oh,
wrote that?
let me see.
I thought it was a.
The Rosie Project is not quite sure how to pronounce this first name, but the Simison.
Simson. Yeah.
We'll figure out how to pronounce her name before next week.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's a woman, actually.
Yeah, I think so. Apparently, they're making a movie. So, and it's got
Hot
Henry
topic.
Cavill and Ryan Reynolds on that one. Whoa. Movie could turn me.
Okay, I think on that,
Matt,
we'll sign off.
considering one of the only Rogers is probably my fiance, who's a woman, that would be a good one.
Shout out to Marion. Bye,
All right.
Phil.
See ya. Love you.
And I wanna read 500 books, and I wanna read 500